There was like a huge upset with in the Adobe Animate community because Adobe started sending emails to Adobe Animate users being like, we're contacting you to let you know that Adobe will be discontinuing Adobe Animate on March 1st, 2026. When this was sent, that was like only like a month later, you know?
And replaced with what?
Nothing. As an existing Animate user, you may continue to use Animate, but please know the technical support will no longer be available after March 1st, 2027. What? Please note that access to your Animate files and project data will end on March 1st, 2027. To ensure a smooth transition, we encourage you to export your Animate FLA files to other formats such as SWF, SVG, and MP4 files before this date. And those are export files. It's just like an MP4 when you export with Premiere. It's like you can't edit that after. It's a stupid comment. It's a company that doesn't even understand what their own product is, basically.
Like what other commodity animation applications for iPad and for like what else even exists?
There's other ones like Toon Boom, and I think Procreate has some animation tools.
Yeah, Procreate's good. Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of apps that do animation, but Animate, it used to be Adobe Flash. So Macromedia Flash, actually. So back in the day, it was Macromedia Flash. You can do like keyframe animations. It was used to make Flash websites and all Flash websites back in the day. Newgrounds, homestarrunner.com. Anytime you had an ad on the internet, it was a Flash ad. It was basically just for those kind of like web applications on the internet. People made games with Flash. That's what all Newgrounds was, basically. It was games and animations.
Much of the web was Flash.
The smartphone came out and Flash was phased out. Adobe was like, what are we going to do with this product now that what we wanted it for, which was like web domination?
Of course!
Basically, Apple forced it to not be the dominant platform because it didn't support it. So they were like, oh, we'll rebrand it as Adobe Animate, and it'll be just because people are using it for animations. Newgrounds, a lot of the most famous creators like Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps, he had a ton of amazing animations on Newgrounds, Harry Partridge, and things like that. You know those animations.
I've been rediscovering Harry Partridge with Gloria. I mean, not all of them are appropriate, of course, but Dr. Bees.
Dr. Bees!
Like she walks around all now going like, what's this? There was one of him when you were trying to list off software. I'll always remember this cartoon that he made where he was like making fun of Go Animate, which is sort of like animation automation. And he was like, can Go Animate turn a hand into a lobster, a gay lobster or whatever. His animations are fucking crazy. They take forever, but they're crazy.
Yeah, he's amazing. And Flash or Animate, it was just so easy to make something. Like the way they set it up, like with keyframes and symbols and the way you nest those symbols into the project and the tweens. I remember this was like 2004. I had some friends over from my improv group at my dorm. And one of the girls was like, hey, I think you'd be good with Flash. Let me download it onto your computer. We had this intranet, which everyone used to pirate software. So she downloaded it from that, put it on my computer. She's like, let me just show you how to like do an animation. She like drew a circle or a triangle, and she had it. And she was like, put a keyframe, then made the triangle tween across the stage. And I was like, oh my God, you just did sorcery, because it was so easy. She didn't like a minute she was able to do that. And so that kind of got my obsession with the whole thing. So I've been animating basically since then. And it's just, it was just such an easy, intuitive program. And I've used other programs like Toon Boom and stuff like that. And it's not the same. They always try to do something like a different workflow or a different way of thinking. And that's probably good for some people. And there's a lot of people who probably that resonates with. But a lot of companies use Adobe Animate, like a ton of Adult Swim shows, a ton of children's shows on the internet.
It's like incredibly disruptive.
It's incredibly disruptive for a lot of workflows if this was to be retired and to go away. So the solutions were like, oh, use Adobe After Effects and Adobe. There's animation preset. There's animation presets and some of our other things, and they're all like trash and don't
Wow.
And it doesn't make any sense what they were saying to replace it with. They just didn't know what they had, really. And so there was so much backlash. Like, everyone on Twitter was going off. Like, Aaron Hansen had a huge diatribe. I don't want to read the whole thing, but it was basically, he went through the whole history of Flash to Animate and how Adobe really neglected it, didn't do bug updates, didn't do software updates, and they basically abandoned it, he thinks, because there's no way to like dominate the market with basically old renamed Flash. So, and couldn't think of any AI tools to put into it, so they abandoned it.
What a shame. You would think that like it would be like prime for AI.
You would think. So I'm not really sure exactly what it is. They just really don't want to put any resources to it.
That reminds me a lot of Adobe Encore. To this day, dude, like I think like major Blu-ray author, boutique Blu-ray authors and probably even mainstream ones, if you talk around, they're like, we still have a computer that runs Adobe Encore CS6 from back, 2011 or whatever it was. And it's Windows only. Jason recently reached out to me. He was like, how do I get that old version of Encore? I was like, it's Windows only. And I was like, there must be something else out there that can, and yeah, sure. There's like some software that can author Blu-rays, but nothing like it. It was perfect. It integrated with Photoshop, and the layers got to be buttons, and it was perfect. And at some point they must have decided, like, you know what, the sales don't match the support costs or something.
They probably have the download data, but the thing is like, I bet every single place that does any sort of frame by frame animation or any sort of animation that's you see on Adult Swim or any program uses Adobe Animate. So there's no reason to just like get rid of it like that. So with all the backlash, with all these famous animators speaking out on Twitter, they sent a new update, and it's the current state of Adobe Animate. Adobe Animate is in maintenance mode. While we will no longer add new features to Animate, we will continue to support it and provide ongoing security and bug fixes. More importantly, Animate will continue to be available for both new and existing users. This is a change from what we communicated in an email yesterday for the status of Adobe Animate, its timeframe, and availability. To be clear, we are not discontinuing or removing access to Adobe Animate, and it will continue to be available to both existing and new customers. And commitments to long-term file access and everything. So they backpedaled, obviously. So you cause enough stink, and high-profile stink. And
but how do they not know that was going to happen? That just seems like one of those obvious things.
Yeah, I mean, like somebody said they had a theory that like somebody, like a Netflix executive, was like, "Hey, some of our shows use that. Can you please back off?" Or we'll cancel Adobe Cloud subscriptions or something. Who knows? But I mean, that's the thing, is these cloud programs, you expect them to be there. You expect like, oh, this is part of my workflow. I want this to be here forever. And that's kind of you feel like that's the promise, but of course that's not. Yeah,
you have to be very adaptable to whatever the next thing is, and the next thing is. As an independent creator, I think it's, you can be a lot more agile, but if you're an Adult Swim show and like your whole enterprise is based on this piece of software and the software goes away, I mean, you're probably going to run it unsupported for quite a while as you make a transition, right?
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, well, just pirate it." It's like, well, companies can't pirate software.
Right. Like, it's not a solution.
It's not a solution, and like, especially when you have so much old content, so many back projects and stuff like that you have to access. Mm-hmm. You're like, do you really want Smiling Friends to not have access to their old projects? Like, no, of course not.
Adobe's evil. They it's a very expensive suite of products too, like the monthly fee and everything else. But there's a reason they're so evil. It's because they're one of the only major games in town. I mean, you can edit video elsewhere, but Premiere is probably where you want to be editing video, and you can edit photos other way. Photoshop's probably where you want to be. You can make publications, but InDesign is pretty fucking good for so it's hard. I work in higher ed, and like the notion of not going with Adobe that's a very hard proposition. Like, I wouldn't even know what that would look like.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm using Photoshop daily. I'm living in Photoshop and Premiere. The concept of those things suddenly going away, I'd be like, oh my God. I don't use Animate as much anymore, but that was my life for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it was just shocking to me that because when they made that announcement, I immediately downloaded Adobe Animate because I was like, I want to make sure I have a copy of it. And yeah, the last time they updated it was like 2024, so that hasn't been updated in a while.
I do think like now that you have Claude and stuff, you could be like, all right, here's the kind of projects I do. Here's some examples. What's an alternative? Teach me a new workflow. I feel like with really strong LLMs, like walking you through a new solution is a bit more in reach than it once was. You know, it was a lot more daunting to be like, all right, let me go over to like the tutorials and watch the trainings for the new thing. But now like you can kind of dive into the deep end and start trying things and asking questions of the LLM and showing screenshots. And I'm sure eventually all software will have AI helpers built in. And so it should be, people, you know, as time goes on, people will hopefully be able to adapt to new software a little bit more quickly. Maybe.
Yeah, it is true, and it is helpful when you're even when like if you have to get like 3 car seats for the back of your car, being like, I have a Honda 2015 CRV. Like, how much space in the back, and will these car seats fit in there safely? And it's able to, you know, give you the dimensions. You know, back in the you always have to double check everything, obviously, but it does a really good job. And you're just like, wow, that would have taken me so long to figure all that stuff out.
I find it very helpful with like getting over like competency gaps, because you know I'm going along, I'm competent in whatever it is I'm doing, and then there's some gap. There's some like, oh, I've never done that before. And then like, all right, well, let me do some screenshots. And you know, about even half a year ago, I remember it was getting the UI wrong. It didn't really know the software I was talking about. It was taking too many guesses. But I think as more people have used it, the models have gotten better trained, and they know the UIs. They're like, what version are you on? Oh, okay. And it can walk you right through anything. Like, it's very, very effective. So should make us more adaptable. But very sad, you know, Adobe Animate, I've never really used it, but I always thought it was cool that they kind of, the way they transitioned out of Flash into it felt like okay, good. Like, this will be one for the animators, you know, and I love independent animation. And there's not really you know, because there's no Newgrounds and YouTube's not really all that friendly a place to animation. Feels like independent animators have no home either.
Yeah, it is sad in a way, because there was animation was the internet for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted something funny on the internet, it was an animation. And it was probably made with Flash. And all of EJ Comic was made in Adobe Animate, or most of it. There was some that I did on an iPad, but that was too clunky. Again, I wanted to go back to Animate because it was the software.
It's a good workflow. Somebody really should make like a really strong suite of apps. There are Adobe competitors, and price them reasonably and capture a shitload of market.
You all look so beautiful together.
Wouldn't be that hard. Fucking use Claude and make your own. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. Yeah. Sell it, be a billionaire. You know, sell it for half. Perpetual licenses. Wouldn't that be nice? If you could buy a perpetual license of software that you use every single day, that's very effective.
Oh yeah.
Instead of
used to be the world. Because I remember I wanted Photoshop, and it was like, what, like $1,000 or something to get Photoshop.
Right,
yeah,
right. Imagine having paid that, and then you end up in the fucking subscription thing anyway.
Yeah, I know. That's basically what happened. So, it's like,
there's always room for piracy.
That's true.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.